Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then, gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again. Gather the Spirit, harvest the power, our separate fires will kindle one flame. Witness the mystery of this hour, our trials in this life appear all the same. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then, gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again. Gather the Spirit of heart and mind, seeds for the sowing are laid in store, nurtured in love and conscience refined, with body and spirit united once more. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then, gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again. Winter to spring, and summer to fall, the chorus alive, resounding as one. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then, gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the First Unitarian Society of Milwaukee. I'm Dena McPhetres, and I'm honored to serve as Associate Minister and welcome you to our online worship service today. At First Unitarian Society of Milwaukee, we welcome people of all genders, sexualities, ages, races, ethnicities, histories, and bodies. We welcome your mind, your heart, and your spirit. We welcome all that you bring with you and all that your heart longs to set down. During the COVID-19 public health emergency, First Church in-person services have moved online. Summer worship services are at 9 a.m. only through Labor Day weekend. We offer all ages religious education every Sunday at 10 a.m. online, with pre-K and kindergarten at 11:30 a.m. and youth group on select dates during the summer. Sign up for the RE weekly update to learn more about ways to connect with our families, faith, and community. You can find the links in your live stream chat now. Join us for a virtual coffee hour this morning after the service, where we chat in small groups. You can find the meeting link in the live stream chat and join us online. Visitors and members are welcome to connect. Please join guest host Diane Horn to connect and reflect this Thursday at 6 to 7 p.m. online. You're also invited to a drop-in online poetry contemplation group at 9 a.m. Wednesday mornings with Lynn Jacoby, our membership development coordinator. And we also have game nights on Thursday evenings. You should be able to find all those links in your Friday announcements. Once again, I welcome you to our worship service this morning by inviting you to repeat our mission after me. We gather to nurture the spirit, engage the mind, and inspire action. These opening words are called Each Day by Kristen Harper. Each day provides us with an opportunity to love again, to hurt again, to embrace joy, to experience unease, to discover the tragic. Each day provides us with the opportunity to live. This day is no different. This hour no more unique than the last, except maybe today, maybe now, among friends and fellow journeyers, maybe for the first time, maybe silently, we can share ourselves. Let's watch Reverend Jennifer light the chalice, symbol of Unitarian Universalism, in our beautiful sanctuary. As we enter into a time of meditation, I invite you to find a way wherever you are to ground and center yourself. Perhaps you can put your feet on the floor, maybe find a way to lift your spine so you can breathe deeply, and let your hands come to a resting place. This spoken meditation is called All We Are One by Yvonne Sion. Each of us comes from a different place, yet all we are one. We carve for ourselves our own unique space, yet all we are one. We learn how to speak, eat, dress, cook, and play in different ways. Of common homeland, we have not a trace, yet all we are one. We kill, maim, and harm one another with no thought for God's will. We forget the one God and one grace, yet all we are one. On a mountain in East Africa, near Olduvai Gorge, our common mother, Eve, says that we come from one human race, and all we are one. Let's watch Reverend Jennifer ring the meditation bowl in our sanctuary, followed by shared silence, followed by singing Spirit of Life.
Good morning. My name is Amy Wilbourne, and I'm grateful to be serving as your worship associate this morning. I hope you are all well and enjoying your summers. My dad was the president and CEO of Air Wisconsin, which was, at its peak, the largest regional airline in the United States, employing over 1,000 people nationwide. The airline was born just a few years before I was. So the dad that I knew wore a three-piece suit, wingtips, worked 6 or 7 days a week, and traveled frequently for business. He missed soccer games, dance recitals, and family vacations. As a young person, I resented not having my father around and considered his absence a character flaw. Work always came first. In 1990, when my dad retired, hundreds of employees showed up to honor him. Person after person came to sing my father's praises. Many said that he had been a role model to them. Some said a father figure. Almost everyone said that he treated his employees like family. He was a leader who made everyone he encountered feel seen, valued, from pilots to flight attendants to baggage handlers. I walked out of that retirement party in 1990 feeling betrayed. I sat in the parking lot with my face in my hands and cried. All of his employees seemed to know and admire my dad, while I did not. My mom had raised 5 kids, but my dad had raised an airline. He was not a typical leader in the corporate world. He never attended high school, much less college or business school. The institution he attended was the School of Hard Knocks. He lost his mother at the age of 12. When he was 16, he faked his age and joined the Army Air Corps just months before the bombing of Pearl Harbor. There, my dad learned about airplanes and airplane maintenance. Many, many years and many hard knocks later, my dad moved his family to Wisconsin to help start a small airline that would provide service between Appleton and Chicago. That was the birth of Air Wisconsin. As I matured, so did my understanding of my dad. Like many people's, my dad's character was complicated. He was not the one-dimensional person that I had turned him into, the absent father. He was a mix of character traits, both positive and negative. He was at once admirable and fallible. I was fortunate to have 16 more years with my dad after he retired and before he passed in 2006. We got to know each other, and I had the pleasure of seeing him enjoy my children. He did things as a grandpa that he never did as a dad. He was a complex man who worked hard to support his family and an airline. I recently reached out to a Facebook group of former Air Wisconsin employees and asked them to describe some of my dad's characteristics. They said, he always knew people's names no matter what their job. He would pop into the airplane hangars on weekends and might say things like, "Has the rain hurt the rhubarb?" He could take any seat he wanted on an Air Wisconsin flight, but would always sit in the back. He was fair and equitable. He treated people with dignity and respect. He made us want to become the best version of ourselves. He wanted me to become the best version of myself too, and I felt that. Shortly after my dad passed, I went into his closet to be near his clothing. I found one of his old date books and discovered that he had written down on several dates in his book in bold letters, "Amy and boys visiting." I had no idea that he looked so forward to those visits. The character traits my dad embodied as a leader are the very traits that I look for and value in leadership today. Equitable, dignified, respectful, caring, compassionate, empowering, fair, hardworking, and a good listener. He instilled those traits in his company family. In my family, he instilled those traits in me.
I my hate? Why did I cross the deep? Oh, why left I the land where my forefathers sleep? I sigh for Scotia's shore, and I gaze across the sea, but I cannot get a blink of my own country. There's a hope for every woe, and a balm for every pain, but the first joy of our hearts comes never back again. There's a track upon the deep and a path across the sea, but the weary ne'er return to their own America, what have you come to? America, where have you gone? America, what have you come to? I'm running to America. Along highways we've gone, loving the grass root in the ditches, loving the water neath the bridges, and the markets full of fruit. Into cities we have gone, loving the rivers in their glories, loving the buildings for their stories. They're straining down for roots. America, what have you come to? America, where have you gone? America, what have you come to? I'm looking for America. From a great distance we've come, hearing the passion of this language, fearing the siren song of anguish, but we learn to sing along. From darkened bedrooms we have come, carrying children on our shoulders, carrying hearts as big as boulders. The nights can last so long. Oh, run, come see. Oh, run, come see. Oh, run, come see. The shining sea, the shining. Into the desert we have gone, feeling a flatness that embraces, dancing a dance of open spaces, wishing we could stay. Into foothills we have gone, clasping the riches to our faces, living on grass and Queen Anne's laces, kneeling down to pray. America, what have you come to? America, where have you gone? America, what have you come to? I'm gonna find America before too long.
Oh, thank you, Katie. Well, let me begin with an understatement. Much has changed since a year ago when I chose the topic character and politics for this worship service. I anticipated the Democratic National Convention beginning in Milwaukee this week, which would bring an upsurge in the intensity of politics and how it affects the relationships in our families, congregation, and community. I thought the topic of character might be worth exploring, that it has potential to help us reach across partisan divides, or if not actually reach across divides, at least help us understand each other better. I still think it's worth exploring character in politics because so much is politicized these days, including, astonishingly, the global pandemic, which is our collective daily reality. How can character help us understand and navigate these times we are in? What is character, and who gets to define it? Merriam-Webster defines character as one of the attributes or features that make up and distinguish an individual, and the complex of mental and ethical traits marking and often individualizing a person, group, or nation. They also define, as number 2, character as one of the persons of a drama or novel, and number 3, moral excellence and firmness. The dictionary goes on to say, character demonstrates that a word may have many and varied meanings and yet still be understood by most listeners when used in disparate settings. We have little trouble distinguishing the meanings of the noun in, she had a fine and noble character. He is always joking, he's such a character. And they were the last character to appear in the play. The word character comes ultimately from the Greek, meaning mark, distinctive quality, which then passed through Latin and French before landing in English. The Greek noun itself is derived from a verb meaning to sharpen, cut in furrows, or engrave. So when we think about character, we might ask the question, is character engraved in us? Or is it something we develop? Is it inward and fixed? Or something that gets shaped through our choices and life experiences? Who gets to define character? In her book, Character, The History of a Cultural Obsession, Marjorie Garber begins with Aristotle. In his Poetics, he emphasized character as deliberate moral choice in language and behavior. This notion of character as a quality that can be cultivated, even instilled, she said, can be traced through the rise of the self-help movement of the 19th century. Freud saw character as the outward sign of an inward personality. At the Worship Associate Retreat, when we discussed what character traits we look for in potential political leaders, people said perseverance, empathy, compassion, fortitude, vision, critical thinking, able to make unpopular choices, willing to compromise, curiosity, integrity, follow through, good at bringing people together, able to consider the long view and act today in context of the long view, and willing to act in the interests of the whole as well as the parts. I understand that when playwrights and novelists create a story, the generally accepted rule is that the protagonist needs to have a character flaw. They need good qualities, but they also need a flaw. Their human flaw allows us to sympathize with them. We want to root for them. We don't find a character believable if they are perfect. We crave stories about a flawed human being that we can relate to. But in politics, we crave the candidate who is perfect. Our own hypocrisy is revealed in that. When we think about political leaders, we know they have flaws. They're only human. But what kind of flaws are we willing to tolerate in our political leaders, if any? Here is an interesting quote from a politician. "You must not give power to a man unless, above everything else, he has character. Character is the most important qualification the President of the United States can have." Who said that? Richard Nixon, in a television advertisement for Barry Goldwater's campaign for president in 1964. Here's a more recent example. Garber's book describes Brett Kavanaugh's Supreme Court confirmation hearings and Christine Blasey Ford's testimony that he sexually assaulted her when they were high school students. 65 women who knew Kavanaugh signed a document in support of his character. 2,400 law professors submitted a letter arguing that he lacked the temperament to sit on the court. Isn't temperament part of someone's character? Kavanaugh protested character assassination by Democrats, and President Trump weighed in, praising him as a man of great character and intellect. Well, this leads me to the question, how do liberals and conservatives define character? The example above suggests they define character very differently. Jonathan Haidt, social psychologist and author of The Righteous Mind, Why Good People Are Divided by Politics and Religion, has some insights. After 25 years of research in moral psychology, he identified 6 moral foundations from which human beings evolve to act in response to adaptive challenges. I invite you to listen as I describe his descriptions of these 6 moral foundations. So I invite you to listen with present day politics in mind. So the first one is called the Care Harm Foundation, which evolved in response to the adaptive challenge of caring for vulnerable children. Humans became sensitive to signs of suffering and learned to despise cruelty. The Fairness Cheating Foundation evolved in response to the adaptive challenge of reaping the rewards of cooperation with other people without getting exploited. The Loyalty Betrayal Foundation evolved in response to the adaptive challenge of forming and maintaining coalitions. It makes us trust and reward those who are team players and makes us want to hurt those who betray us or our group. The Authority Subversion Foundation evolved in response to the adaptive challenge of forging relationships that will benefit us within social hierarchies. It makes us sensitive to signs of rank and to signs that other people are or are not behaving properly given their position. The Liberty Oppression Foundation evolved in response to the adaptive challenge of attempted domination. It triggers an urge to band together, to resist or overthrow bullies and tyrants. This foundation supports the egalitarianism and anti-authoritarianism of the left, as well as the don't tread on me and give me liberty anti-government anger of libertarians and some conservatives. And the last one, the Sanctity Degradation Foundation evolved in response to the adaptive challenge of living in a world of pathogens and parasites. It includes the behavioral immune system, which can make us wary of a diverse array of symbolic objects and threats. It makes it possible for people to invest objects with irrational and extreme values, both positive and negative, which are important for binding groups together. Friends, let's talk about masks, shall we? In the age of COVID-19, masks are certainly objects in which people invest extreme values, both positive and negative, which seem to be binding groups together and against one another. Science and data show that wearing a mask prohibits the spread of COVID-19. Yet America is in a culture war regarding whether or not to wear a mask. Masks have become politicized. Alex Castellanos, a veteran Republican strategist, said the divide over whether to cover one's face is, like many things in the current era, political. He said mask wearing has become a totem, a secular religious symbol. He said Christians wear crosses, Muslims wear a hijab, and members of the Church of Secular Science bow to the gods of data by wearing a mask as their symbol, demonstrating that they are the elite, smarter, more rational, and morally superior to everyone else, unquote. I saw a Facebook post last week that said, a COVID mask is not a political statement. It's an IQ test. I must admit, I let out a guffaw when I read that. But then I got quiet. Because I don't think the mask debate is happening because of different IQs. I think it's happening because of which moral foundation people are coming from. Are we coming from the Care Harm Foundation? If we are, we're probably people who wear masks. Are we coming from the Liberty Oppression Foundation? If so, we're probably not wearing a mask. If we're coming from the Loyalty Betrayal Foundation, we get angry at groups who are not doing what we are. Are we coming from the Sanctity Degradation Foundation? How do our moral foundations square up against the facts? According to Johns Hopkins University, there are over 12.5 million cases of COVID-19 worldwide. 561,864 people have died from COVID-19 worldwide as of yesterday. The New York Times reported today that COVID cases in the US are shattering records nearly every day. Friday, the US set a single-day record for the 7th time in 11 days, when 68,000 new cases were recorded. We had another 60,000 cases recorded yesterday. Cases are increasing in Wisconsin too. The Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel reported July 7th that Wisconsin's coronavirus outbreak is headed in the wrong direction, according to state health officials in their first media briefing since cases began to climb again in recent weeks. It took 3 months for positive coronavirus cases to reach 16,000 in Wisconsin, but Health Services Secretary Andrea Palm said that number has more than doubled in just the last month. Much of that growth has been driven by young people in their 20s who now make up more than a quarter of the state's 32,556 total cases, which is probably higher by today. Not to blame young people, but it just means, it's not just old people who are getting the virus. So back to the Journal-Sentinel. Governor Tony Evers signaled Tuesday that he might try to require Wisconsin residents to wear face masks to address the new surge of coronavirus cases. Until Dane County implemented its mask requirements on Tuesday, Wisconsin was in a minority of states that did not have any orders requiring face coverings. Milwaukee city leaders are currently working on an ordinance to require face coverings. Well, I want to tell you about an article published in The Atlantic on July 6th that really helped me understand that although wearing masks to prohibit the spread of COVID seems straightforward, risk assessment is not. The article is called "Our Minds Aren't Equipped for This Kind of Reopening" by Tess Wilkinson Ryan, a professor of law and psychology at the University of Pennsylvania. So I want to share some of what she wrote, and I hope it will help you have compassion for yourself and also understanding of others, because we are all basically working with the same equipment, the human brain. Wilkinson Ryan wrote, "Individuals are being asked to decide for themselves what chances they should take. But a century of research on human cognition shows that people are bad at assessing risk in complex situations. During a disease outbreak, vague guidance and ambivalent behavioral norms will lead to thoroughly flawed thinking. Since March, Americans have lived under a simple instruction: stay home. Now, even as case counts spike in states such as Arizona, Florida, and Texas, many other states continue to ease restrictions on businesses, and suddenly the burden is on individuals to engage in some of the most frustrating and confounding cost-benefit analyses of their lives. Pandemic decision-making implicates at least two complex cognitive tasks: moral reasoning and risk evaluation. The cognitive science canon is replete with uncanny predictions relevant to the coronavirus era. Researchers have studied the human tendency to discount preventable harms that arise from nature and to overreact to harms that arise from human action. She continues, the literature predicts that people will take comfort when a coronavirus fatality is attributed to underlying conditions, for instance, a patient's age or chronic maladies, that they do not share, and that they will be tempted by the quick dopamine hit associated with shaming those who fail at social distancing. As states gradually reopen, seemingly simple judgments are likely to grow more fraught. What does 6 feet between people look like? The literature suggests that I am more confident that I'm 6 feet away from a friend than from a stranger. That I'm more likely to blame people not of my race for standing too close. That I overestimate my compliance with public health guidance, but underestimate yours. She said humans have difficulty calculating exponents, which is particularly crucial to understanding the speed of disease spread. They struggle to estimate the correct answer to a problem without drifting toward the answer that best serves their own self-interest. With more freedom of movement, Americans also have more opportunities to make judgments of others who always seem to be doing it wrong. Most people congregating in tight spaces, she said, are telling themselves a story about why what they are doing is okay, Such stories flourish under confusing or ambivalent norms. So, friends, and these are my words now, when we are making up a story about why what we are doing is okay, we need to remember that we are the flawed protagonist in this story, in this very difficult environment in which we have to calculate risk assessment for our every move. On Thursday, the World Health Organization Director General said, "Our lack of unity is a bigger threat than coronavirus." He said, "Make no mistake, the greatest threat we face now is not the virus itself. Rather, it's the lack of leadership and solidarity at the global and national levels." He said, "We cannot defeat this pandemic as a divided world. The virus thrives on division, but is thwarted when we unite." How is it difficult, he said, how is it difficult for humans to unite and fight a common enemy that is killing people indiscriminately? Are we unable to distinguish or identify the common enemy? Can't we understand that the divisions and cracks between us are an advantage for the virus? My hope is, he concluded, that the defining crisis of our age will likewise remind all people that the best way forward and the only way forward is together. Friends, as Amy said in her worship associate story, we are at once admirable and fallible as human beings. So what is our part to do to contribute to the unity needed to move forward? Our extended families and other circles of community may include folks across the partisan divide. They may be making different choices than us in the presidential election campaign and also in their risk assessment regarding behavior during the pandemic. What will we do to understand where they are coming from? How can we discover and learn from their particular moral foundation? What can we do to span the cultural divide? And how might we contribute to the character and leadership that is called for and so desperately needed in these challenging times? We each have a part to play. Let's turn our attention to Dale Skaggs as he invites us into a moment of generosity.
Good morning. My name is Dale Skaggs, and I invite you now to join in a spirit of generosity. We know this coronavirus pandemic is affecting our members in many different ways, but for those of us who can give right now, it is more important than ever to share our resources with people who have been harder hit by the pandemic. Our church supports members and friends of our congregation spiritually, emotionally, and materially, and supports people in Milwaukee through our relationships with our community partners. Your pledges are the foundation of our congregation and the core of our spiritual practice of generosity. In addition, we are grateful for non-pledge gifts from folks who appreciate our online ministry and are benefiting from it. We also have a special fund for people who need financial support called the Minister's Discretionary Fund. You can give to the church by texting 73256 with the message "Give to UU $." That's the word "give," the number 2, UU $. Follow the prompts and choose pledge payment, non-pledge gift, or minister's discretionary. You can also give to First Church by going to our web-based giving link. That's at onrealm.org/FUSM/give/First Church. You can see both these options on your screen. We also encourage you to give directly to our community partners. You can find a list of their needs on our website at uumilwaukee.org/support-Milwaukeeans-COVID-19, which you can see on your screen. This summer, we are highlighting the work of the Bread of Healing Clinic, a neighborhood-based clinic on Milwaukee's north side for individuals with financial or other barriers to quality health care, including medical, dental, vision, and behavioral health care. The clinic serves people of 52 different languages and is committed to achieving health, not simply eliminating sickness. Now more than ever, we know that health is an issue of social justice, a right that belongs to all people, not just a commodity to be delivered on the basis of finances. A link for direct contributions to the clinic should be on your screen. All of your offerings to our community partners and to First Church will be gratefully received. And now, as always, but especially at this time when our interdependence is so evident, thank you for your generosity.
Choice in the megaphone, hearts with a purpose, we rise to the calling inside. Another line won't resign, this is our time. Look around, hear the sound, we're an earthquake, we're fueling the currents. The truth is our fire. We are rising for our lives, they won't stop the tide this time. For our power is our light and the strength to say what's right. So we shout side by side, we have arrived. We will survive. One, two, three, four, five, 6, 7, 8. All plot new hate, wanna turn away. Long halls build walls and not bridges. Tomorrow's too late. See the beat on the street, cause we're here to say, not a pulse, there's a shock. It's the moment. The breath that's been silenced now knows what to say. We are rising for our lives. They won't stop the tide this time. For our power is our light and the strength to say what's right. So we shout side by side, we have arrived. We will survive. We will survive. We will survive. make a choice and I make a thought. Hearts without purpose, I rise to my calling in the sky. Voices in my voice, rising up. Rise to my calling in the
May we rise to our calling inside. Thank you. These closing words are by Simon Ortiz. That dream shall have a name after all, and it will not be vengeful, but wealthy with love and compassion and knowledge. And it will rise in this heart, which is our America. Let's watch Reverend Jennifer extinguish our flaming chalice. And please stay to listen to our own Patrick Patterson play the postlude, an original piece called COVID Blues. You won't want to miss it.